All right, what's up, guys? And we're back with part two of the Battle of Waterloo as the Allies. Just to quickly recap what happened in the last video, uh, we went through the first hour of the battle, so it's 12:30 now, and all we really did was start reshuffling some of our forces and pulling a few of our forces back behind the Mont Saint Jean Ridge to protect them from artillery fire from the French Grand Battery. We occupied La Haye Sainte with some of the King's German Legion units, and on our extreme right, our forces were attacked by Bowden's brigade of Bonaparte's division of Reil's Corps and run out of the woods, run off the wall in front of Hougoumont, and then we detached some skirmisher units from one of the foot guard units and slowly battled back and eventually recaptured the defensive wall in front of Hougoumont. And that is about where we are right now. So let's run the video forward here. And you can see so far we have 41,834 points. And again, we're racking up points pretty fast because of how many of the objectives that we currently hold. We hold Papelotte, we hold this one here on the Allied left, we hold La Haye Sainte, we hold Hougoumont, and we hold the Allied right. So right now we're currently holding 5 objectives, and we're getting somewhere around 700 or 800 points a minute just from holding those objectives. Since things have settled down at Hougoumont, we're going to slowly start kind of setting this line up back here. I've already brought in some of the artillery back, as well as I brought Bylance Brigade back in the last part. And what we're going to do is just start slowly shifting some of the forces around and opening up fields of fire for the artillery in anticipation of D'Erlon's corps attack up the Allied center here. And the idea being here, once they crest this ridge here, they're going to have a whole lot of pain facing them in the form of these batteries that are just going to start blowing close range fire into the face of any unit that dares to cross this threshold here, where you get to the top of the ridge and then, you know, this is what's going to be facing you. And the reason we set that up back here as opposed to further up where we were originally deployed is because, as I said, it takes a while for D'Erlon to get going, and if we stayed up here, we would have been, you know, just grinded on by all these guns the French have deployed on this ridge back here. So by setting it up behind the ridge, we are protecting ourselves. All right, so we have our first French offensive beginning to move off against Papelotte. Now, this is probably Bru's brigade of de Ruyter's division. Thanks, Dad, for telling me how to really pronounce his name. I've always pronounced it as de Ray or de Ret, thinking he was French. But no, my dad informed me he was actually Dutch, and his name is pronounced de Ruyter. So now I finally know that. So anyway, yes. One of his brigades, Bru's brigade, is moving off towards Papelotte. It'll take them a few minutes to get there, so in the meantime, we've already got units occupying Papelotte ready to receive them, so we're just going to keep kind of setting our setup here, and it's pretty close to being satisfactorily done for now. All I need to do is start kicking off some skirmishers to screen the batteries, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. You guys know what I do with these sorts of defensive setups. So let's go ahead and check out what's going on at Hougoumont here. So we're still engaged with Soy's brigade of Bonaparte's division of Reil's Corps. So far, that's mainly the only division we've really engaged in combat is Bonaparte's division, and his 2 brigades of Bowden and Soy. Now, Bowden was killed on the wall here in the last part of the series, in part 1, and heroically died attacking Hougoumont. So his brigade has mostly pulled back over in here, and it's Soy's brigade we're now fighting kind of on the right of Hougoumont. And we also have some other units here. Looks like they're getting ready to do something. We still hold La Haye Sainte here. Again, we're just holding it kind of for as long as we can. We don't have much defending it, and when the French get good and ready to come and take it, they're going to come and take it, and there won't be much we can do about it. Because we've already elected to pull most of our units behind the ridge, so we can't really defend La Haye Sainte. So here comes Bru's brigade, and they are heading towards Papelotte here, and we'll have to see how they deploy, but right now it looks like they are making the classic mistake of sending all their forces against one side of the fort rather than spreading out and either trying to deploy skirmishers to form a circular pattern around it or just surrounding the fort themselves. By concentrating the forces against only one side of the fort, it's not gonna. They're gonna have problems, because generally it's better to shoot at multiple sides of a fort to have a better chance of shooting forces out of the fort than just bringing fire to one side of the fort. So we'll have to see how Bru's strategy develops there. So while the opening shots at Papelotte are going on, we're going to start kicking out skirmishers and just setting this this fortress up here. And because I'm expecting the first attack to be D'Erlon's Corps, which is just an infantry assault, I'm not setting up in square. I'm just going with line formations. The idea is still the same. We still have the units flanking the batteries, and we still have skirmishers in front of everything, just as we do when we use the square formation. But when I use squares, I'm anticipating cavalry being present, either cavalry by itself or cavalry and infantry. But if I'm just expecting infantry, there's no reason for these units to be in square. And D'Erlon's attack is obviously just infantry. So it's the same idea as the fortress you normally see me use, but we just don't need to worry about cavalry at this particular point in time. So we're just going to kick out. We're just going to kick out squares, and you'll see I'm moving units to form assault columns behind the lines, just like I do with the squares. It's the same principle, except the front units are in line instead of being in square, and that's really the only difference. And we will continue to do that kind of all down the line here. So we've got this whole area basically covered, so that when D'Erlon's Corps comes forward and crests this ridge, they're immediately going to come under this close-range artillery fire, as well as skirmisher fire, basically right behind the ridge, so they'll be in like maximum close range the moment they come into view. And we're making use of, what little artillery we have to make this line pretty formidable, kind of all across the rear of this ridge here. We don't have the same kind of artillery firepower that we had when we were playing the French. So that's one of the reasons I pulled all these guns off the line. We don't have a lot of artillery to play with, so I didn't want them getting tangled up fighting with the Grand Battery and losing guns that the Grand Battery can certainly afford to lose, but we can't. So we just hid everything behind the ridge here to protect them. So whereas Wellington's strategy seemed to be to try and slow the French advance itself as it was coming forward, of course, by feeding troops into the garrison at La Haye Sainte, as well as having some of these Dutch-Belgian units that were both on the ridge and forward of it. Rather than do that, our plan is to basically let the French come and have the defense behind the ridge be so strong that they're basically going to get blasted as soon as they crest the ridge. And I'm not one to say what the merits of what strategy, is better. I would say in this particular game, my strategy is better in terms of we're protecting our men at the same time setting up a very deadly defense once those French units crest the ridge, though we are letting them just come up to the ridge for free. Bru's initial attack on Papilot seems to have been repulsed. Some of the units are still moving forward to engage it, but with only engaging one side of the fort, I'm not really that worried about it. Not yet. And our extreme left over here, we will just keep lying down and protecting them because the ridge is a little shallower over there. So we don't want to go moving them around to where they might come into view. And here we go with some of these Dutch-Belgian units running out of the fort. These guys held longer than most. You know, their troop quality was level 6. They aren't bad. You know, I know I give these Dutch-Belgian units a lot of crap. Some of them were okay. You know, there's a lot of them that are garbage, but you know, some of them are level 5, level 6, decent troop quality. You know, I wouldn't say the troop quality of the units is and what nation they come from are necessarily intertwined. I realize sometimes I may sound like that. You know, I may just kind of, you know, group all the Dutch Belgians into this group of just trash troops, but you know, that's not really the case. The nations that these units were from really didn't have anything to do with the troop quality of individual units. I think that's just down to the individual unit. Certainly there are some Dutch-Belgian units that are crap troops, and there were some Dutch-Belgian units that were, you know, better. So I don't think it really has anything to do with that as much as it does just the individual units. And looks like we have another brigade moving in here. Because here is Bowden's brigade moving off, still sitting out here. We know Soy is on the right. So this appears to be a fresh brigade moving in here, and that could cause problems. And I don't know who they are. But definitely this is a fresh brigade moving forward in column here. Alright, so they're deploying into line. That's good. You know, no matter what, I don't care how fresh they are, they're not going to get the better of these skirmishers on the wall in a firefight. You know, they'll stand there and get shot at and definitely not get the best of it. It's alright, as long as they're forming line, there's really nothing to be concerned about because the skirmishers on the wall should repulse them easily. So we got some more skirmishers coming out here on the right, probably to relieve these units, which are probably either getting tired or low on ammo. They've been out there for a while, so these guys are pretty fatigued. They're down to 5 rounds of ammunition. They did amazing, but it's time to get them out of there and replace them with fresh skirmisher units. And we'll pull them back and recall them. And this is why I keep these 2 guard units in rear of Hugomont, so that I can basically just keep cycling in fresh units and cycling out the you know, the more fatigued units, and just kind of keep putting new skirmishers on the line here. So all right, these guys are engaging these units, and they're starting to rack up the casualties. And we're happy to engage these guys in a firefight. This is absolutely what we want. We don't want them to start coming in and charging us off the wall like they did in the like Bowden's brigade did at the opening here. So, all right, Bru's brigade has been pushed back. Let's see how we did here. All right, so wow, we absolutely killed them. We only took 11 casualties, and we inflicted 132 casualties. So, yeah. Coming up against one side of this fort was certainly not the way to do it there. So they have at least turned some of the guns of the Grand Battery on against Papilot now. Still, the fort looks in pretty good shape. I don't see anything smoking or anything. And we've intercepted a courier message. Okay, so this apparently is now Gauntier's brigade of Foy's division of the 2nd Corps. That is that new brigade over at Hugomont. So we've identified that brigade. It is Gauntier's brigade of Foy's division of Ryle's Corps. So a new brigade from a new division, and the only brigade we're dealing with from Bonaparte's division now is just Soy's brigade, as Bowden's brigade is basically pulled back. So, okay. So that's how sometimes some of those intercepted courier messages can help you out in terms of identifying the enemy. I mean, I suppose I could have just clicked on one of the units too, and you know, on normal difficulty, it will, you know, still tell you what unit it is. But I didn't do it. I didn't do that because I don't know. It just doesn't matter to me. Troops are troops as far as when I'm actually engaging them. But in terms of doing the commentary on the video, it's kind of interesting to know. So yeah, so we've identified that brigade as Gonthier's brigade, and yes, he's switching his. It looks like he's trying to switch his orders to defend. So he must not be getting the best of it back at Hougoumont, which is not surprising, considering he's up against these skirmishers on the wall here. So Jacquinot's cavalry is still not moving. So Bru's brigade is again starting to move forward here, and we are again starting to inflict casualties on them. This is a very weird deployment they got here. They have, you know, one unit kind of facing sideways against the fort, and really only one unit engaging it. Now they're wheeling to face the fort, but they're still only going up against one side of the fort. So it's going to be very hard to get the best of the fort when you're not trying to surround it. That's the first thing I try to do when engaging a fort like this, is to try and put units on multiple sides of it. Very similar to what Soy's brigade tried to do against Hougoumont during the last video, where they started bringing units to bear on the second side of the fort, and that's why we deployed skirmishers to go and you know, push back those units so that they couldn't do that. Because even firing at just one side of the fort, they've routed a few of the units that were inside. Some of those Dutch-Belgian units have already routed out of it. You know, so, but we have a solid hold on this flank now, so units that approach these skirmishers now are going to have to deploy and get shot at. So yeah, we're just we're kicking the hell out of Gonthier's brigade here with these units on the wall, who, like I said, because of the fact that they're skirmishers and because of the incredible defense bonus from being on this wall, the amount of casualties they inflict versus the amount of casualties they take is just enormous difference. They hardly take any casualties at all because the defense bonus is so high that it's like 1 out of every few hundred shots might actually hit them. You know, while most of the shots that they're firing are actually hitting them because they're not really protected, and they're in a closed formation like this. They're in like a line formation. So you can see our units are in the fort are starting to push Bru's brigade back again. They're backing up and withdrawing. Still only trying to bring fire against one side of the fort. So we've taken 22 casualties and inflicted 200 casualties, so we're really doing good here. And I don't think I'm really going to finish off this fortress right now, especially on the left side, just because in here is certainly within view of the Grand Battery. So we will not finish this part of it off until d'Erlon's Corps actually begins advancing. So we'll put skirmishers in front of the guns, we'll put skirmishers in front of this unit, but we'll keep this unit back here for now behind the ridge. And we will put that part of the defense up at the last moment. So we can again see that Papelotte is engaging units from Bru's brigade. I'm still firing away at them. Still only engaging one side of the fort. That's never going to work out for you guys. And I am going to start to move one of these units down in the vicinity of Papilot, just in case this unit inside the fort does eventually need to be reinforced. It's certainly nowhere near needing to be reinforced right now. They've inflicted a lot of casualties. They're still doing fine. Their fatigue is fading a little, but you know, that's to be expected when you're in combat. Lai Hassan is just catching a beating. Look at the amount of damage already. They've taken 158 casualties. Looks like we've only got 2 units in there now, and we are only 45 men above what we need to actually hold the objective. So I'm going to send another 90 men in there with the 95th Rifles and get that number back to a healthy lead. Because if we fall below 200 men, then we won't have the objective anymore. So right now we only have 245 men in there, and it's not going to take long for the French artillery to whittle that down. So our skirmishers on the right are once again engaged, and these boys are extremely tired. We'll get them out of there and cycle in a new skirmisher unit. They are fully exhausted. And we will make sure our other unit is in the hedgerows, so they're getting the defensive terrain bonus. I don't think they were before, hence why they've already taken 12 casualties. That defensive terrain bonus will certainly help to reduce that. So, wow. Okay, we have been knocked off the wall, or almost knocked off the wall. Yes, here we go. These men are retreating. So, once again, we've lost a portion of the wall. And this unit is forming column here. I don't know if they're going to try and move against the other unit on the wall, but we'll deploy some skirmishers here and see if we can get these guys off the wall here by again moving off to their flank and trying to shoot at them. Now this will be a little tougher because if we go off to the left here and just shoot up their flank, they're still getting the wall bonus. I think we have to really be behind them to actually shoot at them and have them not receive the wall bonus, because we'd be shooting them from behind the direction they actually have the wall bonus on. But it's going to be really tough to get out here because there's actually a lot of French troops out here now. So we're going to have to see if the best thing to do is to maybe shoot them out here or maybe come up onto the wall over here. But it does look like they're trying to move, so we're going to have to see what they're going to do. They might be going for this unit on the wall here and actually try and charge them off. And now it looks like they were just shifting positions to get closer to be able to shoot at the men inside Hougoumont. So we're going to try and move right behind these guys and try and start shooting at them. But, you know, again, they're on the wall, and I don't think we're behind the wall enough so that we're shooting at them and it's not taking the wall bonus into effect. I think it will be taking the wall bonus into effect, and we're really going to have a problem. I mean, we're not going to get shot at because they're not facing us, but I just think we're going to have a hard time inflicting casualties on this unit while they're on the wall. We'll have to keep a lookout. So right now, we're not clicked on that unit anymore. All right, so this is the unit that got ran off the wall, and we will recall them. All right, so these guys have inflicted 45 casualties so far. Now that's part of that is the unit total, not what that actual skirmisher unit has inflicted. So nevertheless, we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see if it goes up or not, and see how effective our fire is being. So just remember that we started off at 45. So we are once again taking fire from French units on the wall, which means we're going to have to keep a lookout on our troops inside Hougoumont, keep an eye out for units that run, and we may have to send some more guard skirmish units into the fort itself to replenish its manpower. But we are really kind of surrounded on all sides here by French. They're shooting at this side, at the front. On the other side is protected by the skirmishers right now. So 46, we've inflicted 1 casualty. You know, like I said, this is pretty slow going. So maybe let's see if we can advance to the wall and shoot at these guys right behind it and see what happens here. It may take us quite a while to shoot these guys off the wall. But luckily, they're not really going for our unit over here, so this unit is still screening a good portion of the front of the fort, and I'm sure is shooting the hell out of these guys right here. Alright, so we've got our skirmish unit on the wall now, and they should open fire onto this unit right here. And we'll keep track of the casualties and see what happens. With 2 walls shooting at each other like this, basically, it's gonna take a while. Because with the defense bonus being so high for both units, it's going to be tough to inflict casualties on each other. So we're facing at least 4 French battalions here, with just 2 little skirmisher units here. So they're starting to take a few more casualties, but they're still holding good. And we've really kicked the bejesus out of Bruce Brigade here. How we doing? So we've taken 35 casualties and inflicted nearly 400. Wow, we have really ripped Bruce Brigade. Our fatigue is going down more, though. We're down to okay. We're down to 27 rounds. We're not in critical shape yet. But boy, what a butt kicking we inflicted on Bruce Brigade. So they're going to have to rethink what they're doing here. They never should have just attacked one side of the fort like that. They should have spread out, and at least this whole area in front of the fort was totally viable for them to approach by as well, and they didn't. They could have just circled this whole, you know, even bringing fire against 2 sides of the fort would have been much, much better for them. You know, it's why I'm fighting so hard at Hougoumont to not even have that much happen. Because I know that once you start bringing fire against even 2 sides of the fort, it really starts to go the way for the attacker and less the way for the units inside the fort. So we can see some of Derland's corps. Still no sign of real movement from them. They have committed Bruce Brigade of de Ruyter's division at Papelotte, but that's it. And we're still dealing with Bonaparte's and Foy's divisions of Rile's Corps here at Hougoumont. And, you know, the one thing you can really say about Hougoumont here is with very few troops of our own, we probably have less than 1,000 men between the fort as well as all the units that we have on the wall and in skirmishers, you know, on the flanks of the fort. And we are tying up just thousands of Frenchmen out here that are wasting their time attacking a fort, and you know the Allied lines are basically safe behind it. So even though this is a huge fight going on over here, we're tying up all these. Look at all these battalions. All these French battalions are being tied up dealing with Hougoumont, and you know, I think this is kind of historically what happened in the battle is that Hougoumont basically acted like a magnet for the French units, and that they never really got around to engaging the units that were actually on the Allied right. They just all kind of kept getting sucked into the Hougoumont vortex, and you know, like I said, I think Bonaparte's division basically through, you know, his entire division just against the fort. You know, and they all kind of got mopped up. So we've already dealt with Bowden's brigade. We are still dealing with Soy's brigade of Bonaparte's division, but now we're also dealing with Gunther's brigade of Foy's division. So we're tying up an enormous number of French troops at Hougoumont, while using very few of our own men to actually do that with, while the rest of our lines are safe and sound behind Hougoumont. So Hougoumont is really effective here at actually holding up the French attack, because they just really can't just move by it. You know, they probably have 3,000 men on the field here, contending with less than 1,000 of our men that are occupying the fort and the walls and some of our skirmisher units on the right there. So, oh boy, what's going on here? Obviously, this battalion here smells what we're trying to do here, and they are running our skirmishers off to prevent them from shooting these guys off the wall. They were starting to make some progress, but now this unit has just run forward and pushed them off. And that is the one problem with relying on skirmishing units, is they're just very, very vulnerable to the charge. It's really all you need to do to get skirmishing units out of there, is just charge them. You know, so we're gonna have to deal with that, figure out how we're gonna do that again. So Bruce Brigade is advancing again. It's got 3 battalions moving forward. And we're back at Hougoumont again. So our skirmishers are still doing good. They're getting low on ammo. But, oh boy. So now the French are really starting to try and push on our left. Oh, now this unit is off the wall. They're running. But now our skirmisher unit has been pushed back. So let's try and kick out another skirmisher unit and see if we can get them on this wall, since it's open, while this skirmisher unit is dealing with these guys. So, I'm not sure what prompted this unit to retreat. They couldn't have taken many casualties. Certainly they took a few from this unit, but obviously they were getting hit by units that were inside the fort too. But I'm surprised they withdrew as quickly as they could. So again, this unit is charging forward. But now I'm close enough to recall them. And I'm going to recall them and just disrupt their charge while we get these guys to the wall. And then what I'm going to do is kick out another skirmish unit and put them on this side of the wall, so that we can shoot these guys out of here. These guys are really charge happy. My goodness, they came out from back here and just whoosh. You know, sometimes these French, they'll go into hyper aggressive mode if they can, and you got to keep an eye out for it. So let's see what this unit is going to do now. It looks like they're preparing to move off, because we took away their target, basically. So now we have both skirmisher units back on the wall again. And now we're going to actually occupy this portion of the wall too, because now we've seen that the French are actually willing to come around into this orchard here and go for that too. So we'll set up a unit and keep them on the wall here too, just in case that happens. And I'm going to kick out one more skirmisher unit and put them just, some of these guys are probably getting tired here, especially this guy. These guys are good. So these guys are down to 8 rounds. It's time to kick out another skirmisher unit from our battalion back here. And we will send them forward to replace this unit that's tiring and running out of ammo. And Yeah, we're just going to keep cycling skirmisher units in and out of this position because they're doing a great job at holding these guys at bay while screening this side of the fort. And yeah, I wouldn't stand out there, guys. You're certainly in range of our artillery out there. I'd get back to safety. All right, these guys are exhausted. They've done amazing. They've only taken 1 casualty, and they've inflicted like 200. But it's time to get them off the line. They're fatigued. We can recall them, and you know, basically reabsorb them into the unit, and that will kind of erase their fatigue. And I'm bringing these guys up as close as possible so that we can do the old switcheroo here before this unit has a chance to realize what's going on. It's okay, we're moving this unit off the wall. We're going to move this unit onto the wall, and we will double quick them to get them there as quickly as possible before these guys have a chance to form column and charge this position. I don't know that they're actually thinking about doing that, but you never know. And we will use the 3 button to advance these guys to the wall. There they go. And all right, we're in business. All right, so we're on the wall, and we got a fresh unit. And we will recall these guys, and they will rest up. There they go. Back they go. And that's basically what we're doing here, is trying to defend this wall as well as the flank of Hougoumont, and just keep cycling in fresh skirmishers and keeping them in ammo and keeping their fatigue up. So these guys have gotten out of here and are withdrawing back into the woods. So everything is pretty status quo once again at Hougoumont. The French did show some aggression there in charging us off the wall, and then charging us into the Orchid, but we've recovered nicely. So we're down to 25 rounds. Our fatigue is getting a little tired, but man, are we doing good. We've inflicted about 10 times as many casualties as we've taken. We're up to 67,000 points. And it is now 1 p.m., so we're about an hour and a half into the battle here. And relatively soon, I would think, Durland's Corps should be getting ready to move forward with their attack on the Allied center. Obviously, I'm not playing the French here, I'm playing the Allies, so I can only guess at their timetable, but historically, Durland's Corps began to move forward, I think around 1:30 in the afternoon, somewhere in there. So we'll start to be keeping more of an eye out on what Durland's First Corps is doing. But in the meantime, the bulk of the fighting still seems to be going on at Hougoumont here. We're engaged with just a lot of French battalions out here. There's at least 3 battalions firing on our skirmisher units over here. We have at least 1 battalion engaged right in front of the wall, with some units standing back here. I think this unit is also engaged here. But you know, this fort is really doing a great job of really keeping the French bottled up out here, you know, in the woods and kind of to the southeast of Hougoumont here. And all right, two French battalions are pulling back after contending with our Alamo-style wall here. And our skirmishers are doing good, still doing good. These guys are getting tired. They're down to 9 rounds, and they're pretty fatigued, so we're going to replace them as well. Kick out a new skirmisher unit. Now you'll notice each skirmisher unit I'm kicking out is has less and less ammo. Instead of having 36 rounds, they now have 31 rounds. And that's because even when you're expending ammo with skirmisher units, it still comes from the parent unit's total per man. So when we recall them, it's not like they get their ammo back. So the average amount of ammo through the whole unit actually goes down. And so the only way to start kicking out skirmisher units that have full amount of ammo again is to actually resupply the parent unit, which we'll get around to doing. So yeah, I'm just checking out Derlan's Corps. They're still lined up in column back there, not moving. So we're really just bouncing back and forth between Papelotte and Hougoumont here. Papelotte is holding really easy because Bru's brigade is being rather stubborn about only attacking this one side of the fort, and they're taking a lot of fire from it. And it hasn't occurred to them to spread out and try and bring fire against the fort from multiple sides. They're just shooting at the fort from this one side and from not very close range, so their fire really isn't having much of an effect on the fort. The fort is still in really good shape. It really hasn't taken any damage, so its defense value is probably at or near maximum as compared with Hougoumont, which has already been heavily damaged. And La Haye Sainte has also been heavily damaged. So we've taken 176 casualties. We're down to 227 men. But that, again, the 95th Rifles are not part of his command, so you wouldn't see their numbers reflected in Baring's command there. So the actual number of men inside Hougoumont is more. So we do have on the the side west of Hougoumont, we've left most of our artillery up on the ridge because it doesn't really have to contend with the Grand Battery. The Grand Battery is more on the eastern side of La Haye Sainte. So our batteries here on the western side, yeah, we can leave them because the French guns are so far back. They're all the way over here and here and here, and they're not much of a threat to our guns. We can compete, over on the right, we can compete with the French guns on more of an equal standing. They're just not massed together the way the French, the French Grand Battery is. So, all right, we're going to get our weary boys off the line here. We've replaced them with a fresh skirmisher unit, and we're going to move them further up, see if we can increase the potency of their fire against these units here. Take a look at these two units. There's hedgerows right here. This one would only need to sidestep a little bit to be in it, and this one would only need to sidestep the other way a little bit to be in it. So, yeah, it's not really paying attention to its defensive terrain bonuses the way we are. This unit is in the open. It's because even though some of the sprites are in the hedges, that doesn't matter. The flag has to be in the hedges. So, this unit is, not in getting a defensive terrain bonus because their flag is not in the hedges. All they'd have to do is move over a little bit and they'd be getting it, and it would help them out a lot. And we're going to use the supply wagon now to resupply this unit so that when we start kicking out skirmishers again, they will be, fully loaded with their 36 rounds or whatever it is. 40 rounds maybe, I'm not sure. So our batteries on the right here are doing good. This is a horse battery over here, so it's probably not the same. They're probably smaller guns compared to what we're using over here, and so we're kind of getting the best of them. And again, over here at Papelotte. So this is a lower quality unit here, but these guys are level 5 seasoned inside the fort. They're not bad. That's not awful. And here we have yet another battalion moving forward to engage Papelotte. They're being real stubborn about only engaging that one side of the fort. It's not going well for them because they're doing that. So we have Vivian's 6th Brigade of cavalry over here. And I'm pretty sure I'm bringing this cavalry regiment over here because obviously without artillery over here, this is the weakest portion of the line compared to this. And so having cavalry nearby will mean that, you know, worst comes to worst, if you know, elements of Durlan's corps start pushing forward, I can always bring cavalry forward to force them into square and stop them from advancing. And I'm certainly going to bring cavalry up behind all portions of this line here in case I need to do that as units crest the ridge and begin to move forward. You know, I can use cavalry to simply force them into square so that I can tear them apart with the artillery and the skirmishers. So I'm just spreading various cavalry regiments, which appear to have mostly 3 squadrons apiece, and just spreading them out behind the line here, just so they're closely available. I'm not actually deploying them as part of the fortress formation, just kind of keeping them back there in case I need them later on. Durlan's corps hasn't even started moving yet, so there's no sense in making super specific preparations as of yet. Alright, so still a lot of French troops out here. Our boys on the wall here are doing excellent. They're inflicting tons of casualties while taking very few themselves. Although these guys are a little cross-eyed on the wall here. Just wanted to straighten them out a little bit. So we have the wall. We have the wall man now from here all the way around to here. So we have this whole wall pretty well manned. Our skirmishers are still tangling with some of Soy's battalions out here. Soy's brigade looks like it's starting to pull back, though. A lot of his battalions have withdrawn, and we're only dealing with like 1 or 2 now. So we may finally have started to take some of the fight out of Soy's brigade. But you can see the French still have a lot of troops back here that they could commit if they needed to. But so far, Hougoumont is doing a real good job of stopping these French attacks from really getting past it. So we're just back and forth here between Hougoumont and Papelotte, and again we have 2 battalions of Bruce Brigade engaged with us. Our unit inside the fort is starting to get a little tired, but they're still in great shape. They have 840 men. They still have about 25 rounds of ammunition. When they run out of ammo, I'm going to have to pull them out of the fort and replace them just to re-ammo them. But as long as this fort is not under artillery bombardment and not taking a lot of damage, it's providing a pretty good defensive bonus. I think it's somewhere around 55% maybe. It's not like the wall of Hougoumont, but it's definitely a good defensive bonus. And as long as they're only firing at one side of the fort like this, I think we're going to continue to, you know, kick their butts. And this little Jaeger unit has not even been engaged. And there they go, falling back again. So our cavalry is dispersing amongst the rear of our center here, just to back up the fortresses for once they become engaged. I think their officer is lagging a little bit behind. There he is. So yeah, okay. So we have cavalry basically dispersed amongst the entirety of our center here. Here's this one in the center and this one on the right. So if we need to bring cavalry squadrons forward to force enemy units into square as they crest this ridge, we're going to be able to do that and really put a bombing on them with the artillery. That is the plan here. And the French, of course, as they're advancing, will have no idea what's behind here because they can't even see it. They won't even see it until they actually get on top of the ridge. Because we have some of our officers and so forth standing on the ridge. We could see them. We have men in La Haye Sainte and Papelotte, so we can see them, but they can't see any of this because we're all completely obscured from their view behind the ridge now. So while we're observing what they're doing, there's no way for them to know what's waiting for them back here until they actually get up to the top of the ridge. So down to 10 rounds. Boy, the ammo really goes fast when you're engaged in these long firefights. So we'll just keep swapping out skirmishers left and right here. So these guys now have 35 rounds. We've resupplied the main battalion. So again, we're going to start kicking out skirmishers and replacing the ones that are out here already. And you can see some of Soy's brigade is trying to move off ever more to the right. They can only move off so far, though, because if they keep moving off to the right, they're going to start to get bombed on by this artillery. So it's like, this is kind of like the limit, I think. If you start to move any further, you're coming into view of the guns I have behind Le Mans. So I will refuse the unit here and have them face more in this direction. And these guys on the wall are still just doing a tremendous job. And we can see Soy's units again deploying into line to engage our skirmishers. And Bru's brigade is at it again. And now they're starting to inflict some casualties on us as our men start to get a little more tired. This unit has moved into closer range here. So one of the things I'm concerned about here now is that these guys appear to have 25 rounds left, but I don't see any smoke. It doesn't look like they're firing. It only looks like they're getting shot at. And that's concerning to me. I'm wondering why that's happening. Why are you boys not shooting back? And I can tell they're not shooting back because the casualties are not, they're not dropping anybody here. They're still inflicted 455 casualties, while, the casualties we're taking is going up. It was 56 a minute ago, and now it's 58. And we're not inflicting any on the unit in front of us. So I'm not sure what's happening or why my men are not firing when they're engaged and they still have 25 rounds of ammunition left. And like I said, sometimes these forts are just downright buggy. I've already covered that sometimes you put units into forts and they never stop moving, or it never stop being in a moving state. Even though they're not moving, they're inside the fort, but the game still sees that they're moving and extracts their, reduces their fatigue accordingly, as if they're moving, even though they're not. So there's a lot of buggy issues with forts sometimes, and this could be another one in that I'm engaged, but the game says I'm engaged, but my men aren't actually firing. So we are at, well, this is Picton's division, not Mount Wellington. So Picton's division has 18,470 points. And here's Wellington. We are at 79,500 points, almost 80,000 points. Like I said, the points really just rack up, and one of the best things to do in this scenario is to try and earn as many of the points as you need for a major victory as early in the game as possible by just occupying all those objectives at once. So that when the French do start attacking, they really have their work cut out for them. In terms of trying to do enough of a number on you to actually steal back a lot of those points. So again, we have French units moving forward. I think this is still elements of Soy's brigade. So now we have this unit here in the hedgerows facing totally to the south, basically, dealing with the French that are still trying to move around our right, while this unit is still dealing with screening the fort from being fired upon on multiple sides. So it looks like Bowden's brigade is also starting to move forward again, too. So we're tangling with 3 French brigades at this point. Elements of Soy's, Gonthier's, and Bowden's brigade are deployed in a loose semicircle around Hougoumont here. So let's check this Papelotte situation again. Yeah, see, again, they're not firing, their casualties are mounting. They're taking 68 casualties, 10 more casualties than there was a minute ago, and it still haven't inflicted any. So something's going wrong here at Papelotte with our unit inside the fort. In that they're clearly being shot at and not returning fire. I don't have them on volley fire, you can see, that's off. So I have no idea why they would not be returning fire. And it's probably another of these fort bugs, and I'm just gonna have to get that unit out of there and replace them with a different unit, which sucks because that unit was doing pretty good. To run into like a bug like this is frustrating. I've encountered numerous just buggy behavior with forts in terms of moving into them, and like I said, sometimes the units move into them, stop, but they don't actually ever come out of that moving status, and the game keeps reducing their fatigue like they're moving, even though they're not. And the only way to really get them out of that situation is to pull them out of the fort. Which, defeats the whole purpose of having put them in there to begin with. So you can see the values of these objectives and why our points are just skyrocketing so quickly. It's because we are holding a lot of them and they have crazy values. So I think I saw another French column moving forward on the left of Hougoumont. Oh yeah, here we go. Alright, but they're deploying into line. This is what we want. Deploy into line, try and shoot it out with us. No matter how point blank they get, they're not going to get the best of it because these French units are on the wall and are receiving a massive defense bonus. So you're never going to inflict the kind of casualties on them that they can inflict on you. So our skirmishers are still doing pretty good. These are the ones that we brought back that are tired. We can recall them now, get back to the unit. And some supply wagon runs to keep the guns and ammo. Yeah, these guys need a supply wagon run. Alrighty, so while I'm doing these supply wagon runs, I'm going to make a quick run to the fridge, guys. I will be right back. All right, guys, I am back, and with the I can see with the retreat of some of Brew's battalions here, I am trying to switch out some of these units in the fort and see if we can correct that engagement bug that's going on, where units are clearly coming into engaged distance of the fort, and the men inside were just not firing, or had given up firing, and I don't know why. They had plenty of ammo. They still have 25 rounds left. You know, sometimes, like I said, forts, they act buggy sometimes, and I've never been able to explain it. You know, they fired fine for the first couple of engagements, and then, you know, they just stopped when they still had plenty of ammo. So yeah, we're swapping units here. And I'm not really happy that I had to do this, because this unit that I'm putting into the fort is a grade lower in terms of troop quality, and it's not as many men. So let's see if they're going to start returning fire. Okay, so now I'm seeing smoke coming out of the fort. Yes, my men are returning fire. See, I don't understand why that happens sometimes, but you know, there are some weird, buggy behaviors that happen in this game, especially in regards to forts. You know, but for almost any kind of buggy behavior in this game, there is usually some answer to it. You know, if a unit is, you know, listed as moving inside a fort, you know, just pull them out of the fort and maybe have them re-enter, and that could correct it. You know, for skirmishers, like I said, anytime you deploy them, just let the AI move them first so the toolbar flips. You know, there's all sorts of weird behaviors that you have to know about in the game, and how to deal with them, and to recognize that they're happening. You know, most of them I've seen before. There are a couple of rare ones that don't happen a lot. One of them you'll see later on in this battle is very similar to what we had happen in our French playthrough of Quatre Bras, where one of our brigades, and I forget which one it was, on the left part of our line by Gemion Court, where the formation button basically locked up, and all my units were basically just stuck in the whatever formation they happened to be in. I could no longer change formations for units in that brigade. The toolbar just locked up. And that's a very, very rare one. And it will happen again to one of my cavalry regiments later, very late in the battle. And it's a small regiment, it's insignificant, but I do notice that it happens. All right. So the game is on. Derlan's Corps is beginning to move forward. So here we see Charlet and Brujot's brigade beginning to advance, as well as we can see Aluard's brigade, or one battalion of Aluard's brigade, starting to advance. So, as Wellington said, this one's going to take careful timing. So we can afford to still keep looking around at Hougoumont and Papelotte for the time being, because Derlan has a lot of ground to cover. And he's going to get tied up for at least a few minutes at La Haye-Sainte, driving the KGL units and the 95th Rifles out of there. I think we had, once again, had a unit route out of the fort, so I'm kicking a skirmisher unit out to replace them. Who are these bozos? You can see them running off there. Doesn't look like when I was playing the game I really cared that those Dutch Belgian units are running off. So again, we're just continuing to cycle fresh units in. We're still tangling with 2 battalions of Soy's brigade. The rest of the brigade seems to have fallen back and You know, they're just kind of sitting out here, not engaging. Elements of Gonther's brigade coming forward again. Alright, so let's see how these boys are doing. Alright, so they're doing, now we're back in business. They've inflicted 57 casualties, they've taken 5 casualties. That's more like it. Alright, so here come the French, and oh boy, is that a lot of troops coming forward. So pretty much the whole of Durland's corps is advancing, and at this point now, we are going to have to rise up and complete this left part of the leftmost fortress here. And we'll kick out the appropriate skirmishers to screen those men. We are going to, again, be vulnerable to artillery from the Grand Battery now, because we're moving these men forward onto the ridge. There's nothing we can do about that. That's just where the objective is. So that is where we must defend. You know, the point is that, you know, we were able to spend the first few hours here behind the ridge. And, you know, by doing that, we stopped the Grand Battery from inflicting just unnecessary casualties on our men. The casualties they're going to inflict on us now are necessary, because we must defend this objective against Durland's units that are moving forward. I just noticed way off there behind the Grand Battery that it looked like me like they were sending the other brigade of de Ruyter's division to assist Bru at Papillotte. So on the one hand, Papillotte is going to be put under more pressure now. But it has somewhat weakened the strength of Durland's attack on our left, because they've siphoned off. Here you can see them coming into view over right here. They're sending probably Pigot's brigade, the other brigade from de Ruyter's division, and they are moving off more in this direction. So they may be starting to. They now may bring fire against multiple sides of the fort. So that fort may be in a little bit of trouble later on, but can't afford to deal with that right now. The fort will hold for now, but some of Durland's units now are starting to get close. So we're also bringing our cavalry over with the idea of forcing them into square. Obviously, the French are just coming forward with infantry, so we will be able to use our cavalry freely. All right. And like I said, they still cannot see any of this because it's all behind the ridge. And yeah, time to get up, boys. The nap is over. And I'm going to move some of these skirmish units forward to actually create a skirmisher line in front of the whole fortress here and give the guns room to unlimber. And we'll move this unit here into assault columns. So we'll have my assault columns backing up my lines in case I need to counterattack. Now the French seem confused here. They're deploying into line, and nothing's on the ridge to meet them. So no doubt some of them are wondering what the hell is going on here. Where's Wellington? And they can't see us, not yet. So, again, gonna pull these guys back. We've replaced them with another skirmish. We have a fresh unit on the line there, so we can pull these guys back. These guys are still doing well. They're low on ammo, so we're gonna have to pull them back too. But we have 2 fresh units out there. Everything's still good on the wall here. All right, here we go. Alright, so some of our skirmisher units have started to engage, and they are pushing forward onto the ridge. Our 1 battery here has already unlimbered. and we'll move our skirmisher units. So we're creating nice long skirmisher lines right across the whole width of the fortress here. And time for you guys to unlimber. You guys can all start to unlimber now. And alrighty, we've got our lines opening up. We've got our skirmishers opening up. And we're going to try and get some skirmishers out in here too, just to screen these units. And again, I always try to kick off skirmishers from rear lines so that I don't have to siphon strength off of the actual line units. And we have French columns coming forward. I'm about to goof here. I think that this is the cavalry. And I think I meant to charge with cavalry, and I end up charging with the infantry. All right, so the French have moved within range of contesting the objective. So we are no longer getting points from this objective. However, with the artillery where it is and our cavalry here and so forth, I'm not expecting that this is going to be a situation that's going to last long. So here come the French battalions here, and it's really time for these guns to start blowing holes in these units. Let's go, boys. And there we go. The canister fire has opened up, so we should really start raking this unit over the coals in a minute here. So this is a real close-range firefight right here. Now the rest of these units, I don't know what the hell they're waiting for. It's almost like they're not going to fall into the trap. It's almost like they realize it's a trap. So La Haye Sainte has been cleared out very quickly, as I knew it would be. We're not really defending it well, and it did not take the French long at all to run what troops were in there out of the game. So here's where I goofed. I ended up clicking on an infantry officer and ended up charging the French with my infantry. I wanted to charge with the cavalry, but I just clicked on the wrong officer. So unfortunately, we're going to lose our skirmisher units, as they will get destroyed by the French charges here. These two skirmisher units, nighty-night, they're gone. But we do clear we do run this battalion off with our line infantry. And yeah, both these skirmisher units surrendered. So I made a bit of a blunder there, but we did run this unit off, and we're going to charge this unit as well and get them out of there. That was still a mistake. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to charge with the cavalry and make them form square. But nevertheless, now we've regained control of the objective. So it kind of still worked out in our favor, other than the fact that I lost two perfectly good skirmisher units for no reason. So now I don't have the guns screened anymore, and my position on the ridge here is kind of not what I want. We'll kick out some more skirmisher units and screen this area and start to push some of these guys back. I really want to know what the hell the rest of... Why are you guys turning around? Why are you guys milling about out here? It's almost like they don't want to fall into the trap. It's almost like they know it's a trap. So this brigade here has bravely crested the ridge and are going to get pummeled by, as you can hear, by the canister fire. I am not at all sure what's going on here, but it looks like the French have decided to shift their attack more to this side of things, where I haven't set up the fortress. So now I'm going to have to hastily pull these guns back and get some of these units into action, because I guess now that the French have seen what is on this side of the ridge, some of these units are like almost saying like, nope, we're not going to fall for it. You have caught us with that way too often. So now they're trying something different here. So rather than march on the fortresses themselves, they are trying to move off to our right here and engage against some of our units that are not set up in that disposition. And with La Haye Sainte captured, it's no longer acting as a breakup of columns coming up to the field between columns that go on this side and columns that go on that side. So yeah, we're slowly starting to push some of these units back. This unit standing in front of here is that exactly. So they're just getting ripped to shreds by the both the skirmisher units as well as both of these batteries right here, and just yeah, you can't take that for long. But nevertheless, look at all these units here that refuse to crest the ridge. It's literally almost like the AI has finally just had it with my BS tactics, and it's like, no, we're not doing this again. We went through this last series as the Prussians at Plassenois, and you beat the hell out of us. We're not going through this again. That's almost what it feels like. So all right, so we've angled our line a little bit now to face the oncoming French here, and hastily put together something of a fortress-like formation. I'm starting to get units on either side of the guns, get a unit behind the guns to kick out skirmishers with, and see if we can halt these French that are advancing forth from the gravel pit. Although they kind of look like they've stopped here. We have the 95th Rifle still milling about out here. So, okay, now they're starting to come forward here. Some of these units are starting to... Alright, so we got skirmishers on the ridge now. Okay. So it looks like they want to come forward. All right, so we've repulsed some of Marcogne's division on our extreme left here. And we're now engaging with some of Donzelot's division, who are now finally cresting the ridge, and our guns are opening up on them. And this is probably Passage's division that we're dealing with over here. North of La Haye Sainte. We're bringing up more reinforcements to strengthen this part of the line, and we've got our artillery bombing away. So let's kick out the skirmishers. First thing we need to do is get them in front of the guns to screen them. And wow. So this unit is getting crossfired on by this battery and this battery. Not a good place to be, fellas. Alright, this unit doesn't need to be here, so we're just going to put them back in reserve and have this unit here be the left. So, yeah, the French have taken possession of La Haye Sainte. That was to be expected. But this is really starting to pay off now. Now that units are starting to crest the ridge, our artillery is really driving them back quickly. They were really cautious about that advance at first. And, oh, what's going on over at Papelotte? Our unit is not getting the best of it anymore. And that is because, as you can see now, Pigot's brigade has come on, and now the fort is being fired on from multiple sides. That is how quickly the situation can change for the fort. The moment they started putting units on either side of the fort, now our unit inside the fort is no longer getting the best of it. So we're going to take a cue from some of our tactics that we've been using at Hougoumont and see if we can use skirmishers to drive back some of these units that have now moved off to multiple sides of the fort. This unit here that is completely fresh, so we'll be able to pop out a lot of skirmishers from them. And we'll shift the skirmisher unit here to link up those rather separated portions of the line right there. The more forward units over here, and the more pulled back units over here. So we have the skirmisher screening this front now. So okay, elements of Donzelot's division have begun to fall back. They're taking an enormous pounding from some of these units that we set up behind the ridge. However, the French have kind of shifted their attack more to this area now. So I'm going to try and start shifting some of these units over, and we'll reposition a few of these units. By moving off like this, you know, they've made it so that some of these units can advance and not necessarily take the brunt of this artillery fire, although it's still creaming some of these units over here. But we have another battery over here that we can turn to face these guys. And again, let's pop over at Hougoumont here, see what's going on. Still got our skirmisher units out here, and well, they run out of ammo quickly. We're down to 10 rounds and 9 rounds, and we haven't even recalled the old skirmisher units yet, who are a little more rested up. So we're going to have to kick out more fresh units. I don't know where that supply wagon thinks it's going. So here we are back on the ridge here. And we have our line units engaged with some French line units here. So they're doing good so far, no complaints. And yeah, this I am not surprised that the French did not make it very far against this. I mean, it's the fortress. You guys know what the fortress does. It stops attacks cold. That's what it does. And we'll see if we can get some more skirmisher units out here as some of these French are beginning to move forward. Yet again, we want to screen some of these units. And we now have these units out in front of the objective. So it should be a lot harder for the French to move within range to contest it. And they didn't contest it for long, so it's not really any kind of points off of our back, so to speak. But now these units are just very, very timid about moving onto this ridge because they've gotten a taste of what the meal we're cooking up for them back here. And they are instead trying to move against this portion of the line where I have the guns angled more towards this section of the line, so they're trying to move out. However, I have another battery over here, and if these guys move out close enough, we will use them. And again, we have units moving forward here, cresting the ridge, and they're going to catch a leadful. And I'm resupplying this battery as we speak. So right away the canister opens up on them, the skirmishers open up on them, and they're just like, hell no. And another unit has moved forward here, and they will receive the same treatment. But the situation at Papelotte needs some handling. So we've got some skirmishers out now. So, okay, hopefully these skirmishers can drive this unit back, and then they can move on and drive this skirmisher unit back. Because right now, Papelotte is being fired upon on multiple sides, and the unit inside, as you can see, is no longer getting the best of it. They've taken 200 casualties, and they haven't even inflicted 100. So they're getting raked over the coals now, and that is the difference between firing on one side of the fort and firing against two sides of it. I mean, it is that big a difference. You know, they're being fired upon from here, 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 and here now. So this whole area is now firing at Papelotte, and the unit inside, of course, is no longer being able to return fire to effectively hold. Keep a positive score against all four of these units. And these two units here are skirmishing units. So it's naturally just harder to inflict casualties on them. So we're going to try and use our own skirmisher units to drive those line units off and secure make Papelotte a little more secure. All right, so we've again pushed back elements of Marcogne's division. I'm not sure which brigade that is, but as long as they pulled back, we will continue to put skirmishers out in front of our line here to screen our line units. And more units heading towards Papilot. They're really fixating on Papilot now. I've kicked out another skirmisher unit now to screen the fort, and hopefully drive some of these units back. And we're also just going to keep bouncing back and seeing what's going on at Hougoumont here. These units are shot. They're almost out of ammo. I mean, they've done a great job as far as their inflicting casualties. But, you know, in an extended firefight like this, they get tired fast and they run out of ammo fast. So you just have to keep popping back here and cycling fresh units in. Because the French are just not giving up. They're just not giving up over here at Hougoumont. They keep pushing. Keep pushing. So we have to keep, cycling in fresh men to keep the fight going here. So we put out another 2 skirmisher units. We'll move them forward to replace these 2 units. Things on the left side of Hougoumont look a lot better. Nobody's really engaging our units on the wall right now. So let's pop back over to Papilot, see how our skirmishers are doing now. Alright, 16 casualties, they've taken 8. These guys have inflicted 60, they've taken 10. So we're starting to get the best of it and push some of these units back. We should get another skirmisher unit out on this side. And if possible, get a unit in front of the fort here. If we can get a skirmish unit in front of the fort, we can start screening it, because we really want to stop this. They're taking more and more casualties inside the fort here, and this is a level 4 volunteer unit in there. They're prone to run. They're absolutely prone to run. So we have to keep an eye. If they rout, we need to send this unit into the fort quickly. As you can see, since we've redeployed the skirmishers now, that the unit's morale inside the fort has gone up a bit, because we've taken some of the heat off of them, so to speak, by deploying some of these skirmishers. So we've got a row of hedgerows here, and we can deploy skirmishers to line these hedgerows here. So we'll get a defensive bonus, as well as keeping the French units from bringing fire to this side of the fort as well. Bad enough they're bringing fire all along this arc right here. This side of the fort we've largely screened now with skirmishers, so that's why the unit's morale went up a little bit. This unit is beginning to back off. So let's check out things on the ridge here. We've got some of our skirmisher units engaged with these elements of Marcogne's division. They've fallen back now, and we're containing them with our skirmishers. Link this line a little bit better. And most of these guys have all fallen. They've all gotten a taste of the fortress. They've all fallen back. We got a few units here moving forward. So we are at 103,000 points. We have cleared what we need for a major victory. And that is the benefit of taking all those objectives early on and making sure we held every single one of them, is that we really racked up a lot of these points before the French ever really got their attack going. You know, we're not going to gain them quite as fast as we have been, because we have lost La Haye Sainte, which was a 100 point a minute objective. We still hold a lot of objectives. We still hold Hougoumont, we still hold the Allied right, the Allied left, and Papilot. So we're probably gaining about 500-600 points a minute. But yeah, we have lost the 100-point-a-minute objective of La Haye Sainte. And that was just part of the overall strategy that we talked about at the beginning of Part 1. In order to preserve our troops and pull them back behind the ridge, it naturally meant that we would not really be able to protect La Haye Sainte, and we would just pretty much have to give it up to the French the moment they decided to take it. That's exactly what happened. So we're still rather timidly engaging some of these French units here that are up on the ridge, but, you know, no longer really willing to crest it. All right, so we have two units inside the fort now because I'm worried about this level 4 volunteer unit running, and I don't want that to happen because if they do, and I don't have another unit in the fort, then then one of Bru's brigades or battalions could sneak in there while I'm off looking at something else. So by putting another unit in there, I kind of ensure that that doesn't happen. So we've got skirmisher units screening both flanks of Papelotte now. And you see we still have a whole bunch of cavalry back here. We have some other infantry forces. And I'm just grabbing a supply wagon because, you know, I want to be able to resupply some of these units down here as they run out of ammo. So, okay, we are pretty much engaged all along the line here now. Fortunately, the French have been rather timid in actually trying to push home their attack. They've crested the ridge on occasion, but, you know, they were met with the blasting cannons of the fortress and quickly pulled back, which was a smart move. Looks like we got a routed French unit right up here. And some of our skirmisher units are engaged with a couple of units that are on the top of the ridge here. But these units are not really willing to push forward and eat canister fire. So these guys are not really a threat. They're not going to get the better of a long-range firefight like this with skirmishers. That's not going to happen. These units are all on the opposite side of the ridge, and so we can't see them, but they can't do anything to us either. We do have one unit in the sunken road here, but they're just fighting a screen full of skirmishers. And these guys are just sitting out here in column. I have no idea what these guys are doing. And we're engaging this unit here, who are, looks like they're breaking and running. Yes, pulling back to La Haye Sainte. And so, you know, this whole area in here, it's tough for the French to move into because I have the one battery covering this route and this battery here covering in this area. So it's just like, wow, what do we do here? And we'll take the opportunity to kick out some skirmishers and kind of maybe link this together a little bit. Link this kind of open space here. So our line is holding very well. The French really didn't even attempt to pressure it that much. I mean, they would have taken an enormous amount of casualties had they tried. They really would have. I mean, I designed that formation to be that devastating. And yes, look at this. This is what I was talking about. You know, units running out of the fort. So this is actually, I think, the first unit. It's actually the level 4 unit that's still in there, which is weird. You know what, though? Their morale has improved to quite a degree because of the fact that these skirmishers are now on either side of the fort. So we've cleared out this one unit. We're just tangling with these skirmishers here as well as this unit. And now I'm going to screen the fort with skirmishers, which should really help to buff it. And we have skirmisher units out here along this these hedgerows here. This unit was actually not in the hedgerows. We want to actually make sure we get them into the hedgerows for that defensive terrain bonus. Make sure they're actually that it registers as hedgerows in here. And we do the same thing with these guys. Hedgerows, hedgerows. Okay, good. And we're marching some skirmisher units out this way. I would double click them, yes. Get them into position as quickly as possible. So they're going to be screening the fort, and hopefully we can drive these guys back. So again, skirmishers do not block line of sight, so this will not stop the fort, the men in the fort, from also shooting at those units. So we're really going to give them an advantage now by screening them with skirmishers and also still enabling them to return fire. And we are again engaged with a French unit who is backing up on the right here. And I think I'm going to stick a skirmish unit kind of right in here, just to cover this unit's flank. I don't really want to turn these guys to face them. I just want to screen their flank with skirmishers. That's exactly what I'm doing. And that should be enough to drive this unit back for good. And as you can see, the French are just not willing to really push up against any of this right here now. Even over here, this is pretty strong now with the cannon covering this approach from the gravel pit. Yeah, get a supply wagon, get it up there because these guns are firing and they're using close range at times. So good to see I'm on top of that. This unit in column out here, my goodness, boys. What are you doing standing out there? Why are you just standing there getting bombed on? And again, back to Hougoumont. So I'm basically just bouncing around between Hougoumont, Papelotte, and the Allied center on the ridge there, and just try to keep an eye on everything going on at once here. Because remember, all these units, all my units are under TC. I control everything manually. Because one, I'm just better at this than the AI. I don't trust the AI, especially on the defense, to make the right moves. The drawback of that is that I have to monitor everything closely. Because look what happened while I was away. See, this is the drawback of being under AI, being under TC, is that if things happen outside of my view, you know, and I don't see them, things can go south in a hurry. So clearly my skirmisher units on the wall were charged again by some of these French units, and we're going to have to go reclaim the wall here now. However, it does not seem that these units are making any attempt to actually claim the wall themselves. So maybe I can just race up to the wall here, get it, and start shooting at these guys and drive them back. And if that's the case, then none of this will have meant anything. Because again, I'm just cycling units in and out. Alright, so these guys are moving now. And they're moving up to the wall. Pain in the asses. Alright, so I can't just run up and reclaim the wall here. Oh, am I gonna? All right, I am gonna move up onto the wall here and face these guys, and just angle myself because I know that I can put units on the wall. And oh, they just gave up and ran. Okay, yeah, I was gonna do the same thing. I was gonna have this unit turn to face them and this unit turn to face them, and I guess they sniffed it out. I guess they saw what I was gonna do before I did it, and and decided to exercise the better part of valor and pull back. So, all right. We'll readjust this. We'll put these guys back on the wall and reestablish the status quo here. And then as soon as we're done with this, we'll probably bounce back to Papelotte again and take a look what's going on there. Make sure the skirmisher unit I put out in front of the fort is doing well. The rest of this looks pretty stable so far. These guys are all in pretty good shape so far. Recall these skirmisher units, the tired ones. And all right, like I said, bounce around. So we're still tangling with elements of Marcogne's division over on the left here, though they're really not making a hard attempt at pushing for us. All right, so that was the move, putting these skirmisher units right here, because now we've pushed this battalion back. And we now have Papilot screened with skirmishers on all three sides, which will really protect these units inside the fort. And we're going to bring more reinforcements down to strengthen that position. So Bruce Brigade is simultaneously pulling back and advancing. We have 2 battalions moving forward, but we've got a whole screen of skirmishers now to greet these guys. And you boys are too far away, and we'll get the best of it here too. Marcogne's division is pulling back. Donzelot's division is pretty much hiding behind the ridge here. And we're dealing with a couple of elements of Passage's division, but nothing serious. That attack really just kind of never got to, kind of never went off the way I think the French initially wanted it to, for a couple of reasons. One, they let themselves get a little too separated. By capturing La Haye-Sainte and moving off west of it, I think they really dispersed a lot of the punch of their force, and of course just the fact that the rear area of the central ridge there was so heavily defended, they never really got to make a good pop at it. You know, historically, a lot of those units that I had pulled back at the beginning of the scenario were left on top of the ridge there by Wellington, especially those Dutch-Belgian units by a Bylands brigade. So they got pounded on by the French Grand Battery all morning, and so when D'Erlon's corps moved forward and you know, slammed into them, it didn't take much to push them back, and the French started to really progress along that ridge. And ultimately, I think Wellington sent forward his cavalry to repulse that attack. Instead, we didn't let that part of it happen. We pulled back behind the ridge at the very beginning of the scenario. Our forces were fresh. We set up the fortress. So the French First Corps attack did not have anywhere near the amount of impact that it did historically at the outset there, because we were, well, you know, we knew they were coming. You know, and obviously these formations, these defensive formations I've designed are, you know, you know, as they've evolved, I've made them more and more efficient and more deadly against the AI. So while I'm capable of learning and adapting and creating new tactics that are ever more efficient, the AI really isn't. The AI doesn't know any more than it did the first time I played the game 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was. You know, so why I have gotten tons better at defeating the AI is pretty much the same as the day I bought the game. I've just gotten a lot better at dealing with it. So we've got, we're replacing some of these tired skirmisher units, and again, I'll use the 3 button to put them on the wall. You guys have heard me say that a few times. In case I've never mentioned what I mean by pressing the 3 button, certain keyboard commands will do certain things. If you hit the 3 button, it will move a unit forward until it encounters a defensive terrain bonus. So if I have a unit standing behind the wall and I hit the 3 key and I'm clicked on that unit, it will just move that unit forward until it encounters the wall. So I don't need to necessarily try and position the unit right on the wall. I can just move them close to it, and then hit the 3 button, and the game will move them up to the wall. And that's what I mean by hitting the 3 button. Which is something I often do when using defensive terrain, but I don't often mention it. So yeah, all these skirmisher units have just kicked an extraordinary amount of butt here. You know, Derlan's core attack here along this ridge basically fizzled out before it ever really got a chance to get started. You know, they had no idea what they were facing as they were coming up, and once they crested that ridge and saw what was down here, it was just like, Jesus. So I'm bringing some more reinforcements down to the Papilot area. Another Dutch-Belgian unit. So we have skirmisher units kind of all over the place here. So that's severely reducing the amount of fire that can actually get to Papilot. And with this area cleared out, maybe I can take these skirmishers and move them into these hedgerows here. And actually start screening this area, because most of Bru's brigade has pulled off here, and I think this is mostly Pagot's brigade now. So we're going to shift some of these, send another skirmisher unit out here to replace these guys who are probably getting low on ammo. These guys are also getting low on ammo, so these guys are definitely not the guys to put in the hedgerows here because they've already expended a lot of ammo. So we're gonna move this unit over and recall this unit, I believe. Yep, there they go. Back they go. So while we're not engaging a whole heck of a lot out here, I'm going to kind of reshuffle some forces here while I have the chance. This unit has pulled back and it's not really engaging our skirmish unit over here. So split off another unit to take up their position. And we've recalled this skirmish unit and have a new unit on the front line here with plenty of ammo. And how are we doing? Okay. So, well, these guys are again taking casualties, and their morale is a little shaky because this unit here is firing into an unscreened portion of the fort. So, it might make sense to take these guys and move them over here. Alright, so this skirmisher line is reset. So some more units of Marcogne's division have come forward, but they're pulling back as well. And the French attack has really fizzled out here. They've kind of pulled back to La Haye Sainte. They have, you know, one unit in front of it here that's getting bombed on by this battery over here. Let's see how things are going at Hougoumont again. Doesn't sound too exciting. So artillery is still blasting away here. Do the supply wagon runnage. And we still have this 7,000 man division under Chase here that is not even in use. So we still have a lot of unengaged men here because Hougoumont has done such an amazing job of absorbing this French attack from you know, 3.5 brigades or something. So we're again engaging units, but a lot of this has quieted down. All of Soy's brigade has basically backed off. And we have nearly 16,000 points just from Hougoumont. We have 117,000 points total. So we are 17,000 points ahead of what we need for a major victory. And it looks like the French are advancing with 2 more battalions. But again, these are real piecemeal attacks here. A couple of battalions is just not going to do anything against this, all these troops I have here. The French really needed to have made a more concentrated attack. They let the fact that they capture La Haye Sainte separate their parts of their unit or parts of the corps over towards the west, and it really thinned out the overall power of the punch that was coming forward towards this ridge. Now, I'm not saying that even if they had maintained that kind of bulk advance, it would have ever done anything against the fortress back here. It probably wouldn't have. But allowing, entire divisions to get parsed out to Papelotte and parsed out to La Haye Sainte really reduced the striking power of the forces that were sent forward to the ridge here. And so it just didn't pop off in quite the way either I was hoping to see, or I'm sure the French were hoping to happen, because so much of it got, parsed out to different portions of the battlefield. De Ruyter's entire division didn't play a part in that attack because it was tangled up here at Papelotte. And Passage's division looked like it was totally tangled up with taking La Haye Sainte, which they took very easily, but then let themselves get drawn off too far to the left, west of La Haye Sainte, and it really took away from the bulk of the units that were actually making for that ridge. So again, we have another line battalion moving forward here. This seems to be the area they're focused on. It's the only area of the fort not screened by skirmishers, so it makes sense that that's what they're trying to shoot at. And I really should see if I can get a skirmisher unit out there to deal with them and screen the fort. I don't know why I'm not making that move. It's possible I just had other things on my mind. In terms of what I was doing. So, all right, we still got these 2 battalions out here. Or no, this is 4 battalions. This is a whole French brigade here now. But they're just sitting out there. I don't know what they're doing, and I'm just looking to see if the French have anything planned, what they're coming. It doesn't, I can't see everything. I'm just looking to see if I can get a hint of what's going on. In terms of what do the French have planned next. So it's 20 after 2 in the afternoon at this point, and so far all of the French attacks have been repulsed. I'm not going to say handily. Certainly the action over at Hougoumont here has gone our way, but there have been moments where the French have pushed forward, charged us out of our positions on the wall. It hasn't been entirely one-sided. But looks like we've established dominant control of this position now at this point. Most of the French units have pulled back and are not really engaging us heavily anymore. But D'Erlon's attack certainly did not go the way the French wanted it to. Like I said, I don't particularly think it was a smart move to send De Ruyter's other brigade over to Papelotte. Bru's brigade had already taken such a beating. It was better to just leave Bru's brigade where they were screening the right, and send De Ruyter's division along with Marcogne's division to attack the ridge. The area on my extreme left of the ridge is the one portion of the ridge where I didn't have an artillery battery. So that was really the point for the French to try and hit. I did have cavalry there, and my plan was that if the French started to penetrate the line, that I would use cavalry to either repulse them or force them into squares so that my infantry could then start getting the better of them. But I didn't have any guns there, so I was never going to just inflict, extreme amounts of damage on them quickly, like the fortress can. So now it looks like I'm starting to think to turn these guys to face the units that are actually firing at the fort. But what I really should do is move them forward into these hedgerows, because I'll get the defensive terrain bonus and I'll be screening this part of the fort. And okay, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm moving them into the hedgerows. I'll be able to fire at these guys, screen this part of the fort, and that'll be a much better situation. So we have units of Marcognev's division who are again moving forward to try and engage our left, but there's just not enough units in that division alone to hit it as hard as it needs to be hit. And like I said, a lot of this is pretty spread out. Oh my, what do we got here? All right, so this French brigade is moving forward. So they're gonna start tangling with our main lines here. However, I feel like you guys are a little too close to this gun battery. I could turn this gun battery and get flanking canister fire on these battalions as they move forward. So I'm gonna shift this unit over to link up to really link these lines up. The French are deploying into, yeah, they're doing it on their own. And in all honesty, that shot might have given me the idea, like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Look what I can do. You know, I might not even have been thinking about this battery. And then this canister shot just went off, and I probably went, oh, wait a minute. This is a hell of an idea right here. So, right, this battery is repositioning itself, and it should be able to rip holes through these leftmost units here with canister fire. All right, so our big line unit here has engaged. We'll move this unit behind the battery, just send out skirmishers to screen it, because the moment these guys start opening fire, I'm sure the French will take notice of this. Yes, kaboom. Ooh, ow, my goodness. So we'll send skirmisher units out to screen this battery as, wow, we're just ripping. This is going to rip this unit to pieces. So one of the French units is now moving out to the left because this this artillery battery is causing problems. So they're probably thinking about how to deal with it, but I'm going to bring up some infantry support. We'll deploy skirmishers and just, wow. So we got plenty of cavalry back here. And I'm going to actually bring some cavalry forward because maybe I'll get a chance to actually charge some of these French who are pulling back now under the withering canister fire. So we're bringing some cavalry up in reserve here. Still not much going on. The remnants of Derland's corps are just don't want to go up on top of that ridge. Can't say I blame them. And our artillery is decimating these units back here who are just, they're being fired upon in the front by units up on the ridge here, and they're being enfiladed by the artillery. So now some of these French units are trying to actually march to engage this that I've set up here. But now I've got infantry support up, I've got skirmishers screening the guns, I have one gun battery falling back, probably out of ammo. And yes, the artillery is going to. These guys are deploying facing this way, and they're even closer to the guns, so they're really going to get frickin' wrecked. and we'll kick out some more skirmishers. So yeah, our artillery is breaking this attack up nicely. As you can see, they're pulling back towards La Haye Sainte yet again, and that unit needs to get the hell out of there. That is not a good place for them to be. They're being fired on in the front by these big units here, and they're getting infiltrated by this artillery canister, just breaking fire across their lines. Ouch, is all I can say. How long are you guys going to stand there and take that? I mean, really. So, yeah, we're sending skirmisher units forward to, again, screen everything over here. And these lines are starting to break and fall back towards La Haye Sainte. And I'm moving the skirmishers up to the road as well. So yeah, bye guys. They took, you know, 5 or 6 good shots of canister fire, and I'm sure they're down at least 100, 150 men after that. And Marcogne's division has continued to periodically advance and withdraw, but not making much of an effort to really try and take this position. They really can't. You know, even if they started to push forward, I have a cavalry regiment right there. So, okay, we now have this skirmisher unit in front, and they have been, wow, really killing this infantry unit here. They've inflicted 150 casualties. They've only taken 4 because they're in these hedgerows. You know, the fort is firing at this unit. These units, the skirmisher unit is gone, so this unit is now dedicated to firing on this unit as well. Some of these units are regrouping and trying to come forward again. And I think we're going to do another switcheroo here in terms of sending out a skirmisher unit to take their place. This skirmisher unit is going to replace the skirmisher unit that is in the hedgerows, and then we'll recall this skirmisher unit. So constant reshuffling of skirmisher units to keep fresh units and fully ammoed units in the fight. And yeah, I'm really micromanaging the hell out of this battle here. And making sure my units, you know, go to where I want them to go and occupy the defensive terrain positions I want them to occupy, and, you know, really screen this fort and keep the unit inside from running out. Not that the fort is an objective. It's not. The objective is kind of in between these two forts, but whoever controls the forts is going to control the objective because it's right between them. So they might as well be the objectives because that's the positions we're trying to hold. So, and we'll send, oh, look at this, see? Level 4 volunteer, out they go. They have routed. They have taken a hell of a lot of casualties, though. They really got pounded on. So we're sending another unit into the fort here to occupy it. And obviously the French cannot just advance and run into this fort because they're engaged in a firefight with our skirmishers. So, you know, as long as we keep an eye on things, if that happens again, we should still be okay. We just, you know, can't afford to not pay attention. So, okay, things have really quieted down at Hougoumont. And the French appear to be trying to advance against our right center here now, but you know, the guns are pounding them, and you know, I don't want them to set up and start getting a chance to shoot because I don't want any of the guns to get heated, even though they're screened. So we've got cavalry here, and let's just see if we can run forward with a squadron here and just clear this all out of here. Maybe we can make all of these guys break and run and put an end to this right now. And that's kind of my hope. And we'll advance the skirmishers behind them. And yeah, exactly what I was hoping. The cavalry approaches, and these guys break and run completely. And I'm not even going to bother charging them. The threat was all that was needed. We'll just bring them back. And come on back, fellas. And this, yeah, okay, this whole position is basically broken and run at this point. So that will buy us some time. However, it is 14:30, guys, and we have 127,000 points. So we are almost 30,000 points ahead of what we need for a major victory. So we're doing good here. We still hold all the objectives. We've repulsed Durlan's attack. We've held Papilot. We've held Hougoumont. So everything is going well for us so far. We still have to be on the lookout for a cavalry charge sometime in the afternoon. And always have to keep an eye out on our left because we just never know if Grouchy is going to appear or not. So we have to keep an eye out for that. And of course, much later in the battle, we probably have an attack by the French Imperial Guard to look forward to at some point. All right, that's going to be it for part 2, guys. And in the next part, we'll cover the hours from 14:30 to 16:30. All right, guys, until next time, take it easy.